Imagine it's Friday night, after a long week of work. You check your bank account, and the number looks almost the same as it did last month, even though you worked every single day. The bills are paid, the groceries are bought, and somehow there's still this quiet feeling that no matter how hard you work, you're never really moving forward. This feeling is surprisingly common across middle-class America. Millions of people earn decent incomes, follow the rules, and work responsibly, yet they feel financially stuck year after year. And the strange part is that the reason often isn't about intelligence, discipline, or even income. Welcome to Mind About People, a channel where we explore the quiet psychological patterns that shape everyday life. If you enjoy thoughtful conversations about human behavior and the hidden reasons behind our decisions, you might find something valuable by subscribing. Because the real story behind middle-class financial stress isn't just about money, it's about psychology. There's a simple but powerful observation psychologists often make about human behavior. In almost every financial situation, there are usually two different kinds of emotional responses. Two people can face the exact same paycheck, the same expenses, and the same opportunities, yet their financial lives slowly move in completely different directions. One person feels a constant pressure to maintain stability at all costs. The other feels a quiet curiosity about future possibilities, even when things feel uncertain. And over time, that small emotional difference quietly shapes everything. Behavioral economist Daniel Kahneman spent decades studying how people make decisions under uncertainty. One of his most famous insights is that human beings naturally fear loss much more than they value potential gain. In simple terms, our brains are wired to protect what we already have. The possibility of losing money feels more painful than the possibility of earning more feels exciting. This instinct once helped humans survive dangerous environments, but in modern financial life, that same instinct can quietly trap people in patterns that keep them stuck. Imagine two neighbors living in the same suburban neighborhood. They both work stable jobs, both raise families, and both pay their mortgages every month. But emotionally, they approach money very differently. The first person constantly focuses on avoiding mistakes. They worry about job security, unexpected expenses, and whether the economy might collapse again like it did in 2008. Because of this fear, they often choose the safest option available. They avoid risks, delay investments, and prioritize comfort and security above all else. The second person also values stability, but they see uncertainty a little differently. Instead of asking, "How do I avoid losing money?" they often ask, "What opportunities might I miss if I stay too comfortable?" Over the years, that question slowly changes the direction of their financial life. What's interesting is that these patterns usually begin long before adulthood. Many middle-class Americans grow up in households where money conversations revolve around caution and fear. Parents often repeat phrases like, "Money doesn't grow on trees," or "We can't afford to take risks." These lessons come from love and protection. But over time, children absorb a deeper emotional belief about money. Money begins to feel less like a tool for growth and more like a fragile resource that must always be protected. When those children grow into adults, they often become incredibly responsible. They work hard, pay their bills on time, and avoid obvious financial mistakes. But their nervous system still reacts strongly to uncertainty. Even small financial risks can trigger a quiet internal alarm. Investing feels stressful, career changes feel dangerous, and opportunities that require patience or delayed comfort feel emotionally uncomfortable. So they stay with what feels safe. At first, this seems like a wise and mature approach to life. After all, responsibility and stability are important values. But over decades, this pattern can quietly limit financial growth. People stay in jobs that feel secure but offer little long-term upside. They avoid investments that feel uncertain even when the long-term math favors them. They choose predictable routines over uncomfortable opportunities. And slowly, year after year, their financial life stays almost exactly the same. At the same time, modern middle-class life introduces another powerful psychological pressure. Lifestyle expectations quietly expand. A slightly larger house feels necessary once the kids grow older. A reliable car upgrade feels responsible after years of driving the same vehicle. Vacations, school activities, streaming subscriptions, and everyday conveniences slowly become normal parts of life. None of these choices are unreasonable on their own, but together they create a financial environment where income rises, expenses rise, and long-term wealth barely changes. Psychologists sometimes describe this as the comfort trap. People work harder to maintain a lifestyle that constantly grows around them. Yet the emotional goal remains the same: preserving stability. The result is a strange emotional paradox. From the outside, middle-class life can appear comfortable and secure, but internally, many people feel a constant background pressure. There's always another bill, another responsibility, another reason to stay cautious. And this psychological pressure doesn't just affect finances. Over time, it can influence relationships, career decisions, and even health. Financial stress activates the body's natural stress response system. When the brain senses ongoing uncertainty, it sends signals through the nervous system to stay alert. Heart rate increases slightly. Muscles hold subtle tension. Sleep becomes lighter and more restless. For many adults in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, this low-level stress becomes a normal part of everyday life. They may not consciously think about money every minute, but the body quietly carries the pressure. This is why financial conversations can sometimes feel emotionally charged in relationships. Couples may argue about spending, saving, or career decisions, even when both people are trying to be responsible. Often the disagreement isn't really about money, it's about safety. One partner's nervous system may crave stability, while the other feels a quiet need for change or growth. Both emotional reactions are completely human, and neither one is entirely right or wrong. The deeper psychological pattern behind middle-class financial stress is not laziness, ignorance, or lack of discipline. It's simply the result of very human instincts interacting with a complex modern economy. Our brains evolved to survive danger, not necessarily to build long-term financial systems. So we naturally prioritize comfort, predictability, and protection. But the modern financial world quietly rewards patience, long-term thinking, and the ability to tolerate uncertainty. And that tension creates the experience many middle-class families feel. They work hard, follow the rules, and do everything responsibly. Yet the path to real financial freedom often feels just slightly out of reach. Understanding this psychological pattern doesn't magically solve the problem. But awareness changes something important. When people begin to see how their emotional reactions influence financial decisions, they often gain a little more space to reflect. Instead of reacting purely from fear or comfort, they can pause and ask a deeper question. Is this choice protecting me, or is it quietly keeping me stuck? That question alone can slowly shift the way people approach money, career decisions, and long-term planning. Not through extreme risks or dramatic life changes, but through small moments of awareness. Because financial life is rarely shaped by one huge decision. It's shaped by hundreds of tiny emotional choices repeated over decades. And once people recognize the emotional patterns behind those choices, something subtle begins to change. They stop seeing themselves as people who are bad with money. Instead, they begin to see the deeper psychological story that has quietly shaped their decisions for years. If this idea about hidden psychological patterns interests you, there's another video on Mind About People that explores why smart people often make surprisingly irrational money decisions. And if you enjoy thoughtful conversations about human behavior, you might consider subscribing to Mind About People and exploring the other videos on the channel. This space is simply about understanding the quiet psychology behind everyday life.